Okay, so I've been rethinking brisket lately, a lot actually. So I've made briskets for a long time. Been doing this barbecue thing for over 10 years. Competed, won some awards in brisket. Learned from a great human being a few years ago on how to make briskets competition style, and that's worked really well for me. And I've been cooking a lot of great briskets lately. Kind of goes in streaks for me sometimes. So lately they've been pretty good. But I think that I want to make something that's better for the masses. So not necessarily competition style, but something that works better for when there's people that come over and hang out, and something that they're really going to enjoy. So I'm gonna redo how I trim. I'm gonna trim a lot like Aaron Franklin trims on his, from a lot of what I've seen, and the cook's going to be a little bit different too. So this is my first time doing this style that I'm going to do. So I'm going to document everything here in the video, and you'll see success or fail how it goes for me. So let's get trimming. The first thing I'm doing is just kind of clean up this bottom side. This is a choice brisket that I got from a butcher shop here in town. I may have to lock my wheels on my tray. I don't want to go into the meat too much at all on this, but I do want to get some of this silver skin and some of this stuff off the back, the bottom side. Not a lot. It doesn't need a lot of trimming. And it is really easy to over trim a brisket, that's for sure. But really what you want to get off is any of that stuff that's not going to cook, or that's going to burn or end up not looking good when you get it all done. So that's really what anything that's kind of flappy. Here are the dogs. And I'm going to come back and address all this stuff here later. So, all right. So now, really, the two things that I want to do is I want to, number one, take this edge off, because you see here, this is all just going to flake when I cook it. So I'm going to take kind of to follow this seam. There's a seam right here. It's kind of hard to see, but there's a seam of fat where this is butchered. I'm going to follow that seam down and just kind of square this off and make it look a little bit more natural. Aim it this way so you can kind of see. So I'm going to bring this kind of straight across here and square this off. It's also going to help make for better slices later on too. So I'm just going to follow this along. And really I'm going to try to make this one cut here, and then separate it out and see if I can make this just in one more cut. Not going to be able to do it. Got a lot of fat coming down on that other side. So it's going to feel like I'm giving away a lot of meat on this when this is all said and done. However, I don't think that's necessarily going to be the case. And again, I'm going to flip this back over and I'm going to address that here in a little bit. So really what I wanted to do was get an idea of how much fat am I dealing with right here, right? So quite a bit. Really, I want to get this to where there's about 1/4 inch of fat, and that's going to help. That's that good fat when you get down in there, and that's what's going to taste good. You get too much more than that, and it's just yucky. So I'm going to probably cut this off here. So I'm going to make this cut right here. I'm going to try to let my knife do the work here, but it's a lot easier when this fat, I went a little deep there. So if you go deep, I don't think that's going to be an issue, because you can just back your knife back out and raise it back up. But I want to get an idea of how deep I want to go. And the warmer this fat gets, the harder this is. So probably could go a little bit more on that. And you'll be able to tell when you get to the good fat that you like. The dogs found something that they liked over there, because of the way it feels. If this fat here that just kind of melts in your hand is a different feel than what we're dealing with up over here. So this is going to render out pretty good. Then you just kind of want to look, and I'm going to trim that off and see. See what I mean? If this was just a little bit colder, it'd be a lot easier to slice through, even with a sharp knife struggling through. And I mean, I think just like any time I've trimmed a brisket in the past, I'm going to skin it in some places, and I don't really want to do that. But really what I'm looking to do is just get the parts off that I'm not going to eat. That's the key. You know, whatever is going to be unappetizing or is not going to cook or even out well, that's what you want to get off of. Okay. So I feel like we're a little high right there, so I'm just going to find some of the high spots. That's not too bad. Just back to the skin. This one feels pretty good right in there. So the other thing I'm going to do here then is on this side, I'm going to square this up, coming back this way. Actually, no. I think there's this weird muscle that's right here. This is not part of the flat. Or not part of the point. This piece right here, I'm not sure what that is. It's just a poor butchering job, so I'm going to take that off. I'm going to take this off. You see, there's still a little bit more that I don't want down there. And I just do not like the way this looks right over here. I feel like it's got to come off. So now, this side, I want to square this up over here as much as I can, because look here, none of this is going to be good, and it's not going to render out. Boy, the flies are thick. We're going to have to move fast on this. All right, switch knives here. I think that one needed some sharpening. Thought it was sharp when I started, but it wasn't. There. So now we've got a nice square edge there. I like the way that looks. The other thing I'm going to do is this down in this end. That's thin. This is just going to get burnt. And it's just not going to cook out all that well. So, but I want to keep the same general natural shape. So I think where I skinned it here, I'm just going to take this right off. Right there. Then I can see my 1/4 inch of fat that I have around there. Just going to kind of want to make it look nice. Take these corners off. See if we can come off with a little bit of this fat up here. There we go, that's better there. Some of this stuff won't render out here, so we want to get rid of as much of that as we can. And we skinned it just a little bit there. But this is part of the point. We definitely don't want to mess that up. So we'll come up here, try to get a good shape out of this up here. Protect as much of this as we can. Again, any of this stuff that's going to be unappetizing, I'm just going to get rid of. See, this is what's going to this is the fat that we really want to have it render out, that separates the point and the flat. Just that seam of fat. That's going to tell us whether we got this thing rendered out when we're cooking it. So that's the trimming part of it. So tomorrow morning we'll season this thing, really simple seasoning. Again, that's a big departure from what I've done in the past. We'll just do a simple seasoning and see what happens. Okay, with the trigger coming up to 10, we're going to season the brisket. Super easy. This is one of my big changes. Salt, pepper, garlic. 1-to-1 salt and pepper, and a little bit of garlic added in a shaker. That's the only thing I'm going to season this thing with, and I'm going to season it a little bit lighter than I normally would. Starting probably on the ugly side. Nope. Because I'm gonna cook this fat side down on this one. On the Traeger, I'm gonna cook the fat side down. So I got the Traeger coming up to 230 is what my plan is here. So I'm gonna kind of keep moving the salt and pepper together so the salt doesn't settle. A 16 mesh pepper is best here. That's according to Aaron Franklin. So, it's Aaron Franklin. And I'm just going to pat. Now we're just going to let it rest, quite honestly, for about a half hour, because I want that internal temp of this thing to come up, way up. It'll take about an hour off the cook, getting it up that high. So I'm going to let this come up to not room temp, but get quite a bit warmer on its internal temp before I put it on the Traeger. So we'll let this go for a little bit. Okay, so we're 3 hours into this at 2:30. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to just check for some hot spots, and maybe just squirt down some of those specific areas. Looks like we're looking pretty good here. So let's see if I can do this without. So I'm not going to spritz the whole thing. Just going to kind of get the edges here. Protect that from drying out before we wrap it. Shouldn't have to worry about the point so much. But I definitely want to make sure any areas like this are getting, this is shitty camera work. Make sure any areas like that are getting what they need. And then maybe that right there, let's get what it needs. And we're just going to keep going and let this bark build up. Okay, we're going to check and see if it's time to wrap. And right off the bat, I'm not real, I don't like the bark necessarily. I don't think that's where I want it. But I'm going to go more off the feel because I think it's coming out of the stall. And that's what I'm checking for here. It still feels a little tight. So I'm just looking to see how tight it is. It's got good color. And it's starting to release some of that. I think I want it to go for, you know, the fat's starting to break. I'm gonna let it go another hour on here and see if I can get a little bit better color, see if I can get it breaking up just a little bit more, and then we're gonna wrap it in paper. So I had a camera malfunction on the wrapping section of this video. So I want you to pay attention to the end when I unwrap it. You can see that I had it rolled 4 times over and then double on the bottom. I think that was a key to keeping in the juices and keeping everything the way that I wanted it. So when I pulled it, it was coming out of the stall, and I could tell because it was a little bit jiggly. You can see in the video here that I have that that I'm close on the one where I pull out to test it. I let it go just at probably another half hour or so. Well, I think it was an hour. Got a little bit better bark, and then let it come out of the stall. Don't know what temperature it was, but I could tell that it was starting to loosen back up because it was really tight. The meat was really tight, and it tightens up when it goes into that stall. And as soon as I could feel it starting to loosen up again, that was really the right time for me to wrap. In terms of retaining the most moisture and getting the right tenderness in the meat and getting the fat to render properly. Probably another. Okay, we're going to pull it off. I tested it just a little bit ago by feel, and it felt like we were really close. Gave it another 20 minutes. So I'm going to pull it off now, and then I'm going to do a test here to see if our tenderness is where we want it. So I think we're pretty close, but let's take a look. So, I mean, it feels really gelatinous, really where I want it to be, but I want to, you know what? I know we're there, so I'm just going to let this rest like this. So I'm going to keep it wrapped. We're going to let the temperature come down on this till it hits about 150. Somewhere in that range, and then if I need to hold it any longer, then I can put it into like a Cambro or a cooler or something like that. But if I put it into a cooler now, the carryover would be just way too much. It would overcook, and I think I have this exactly where I want it. So I'm going to let this rest here at room temp. I'm going to take it inside. It'll probably take maybe an hour, maybe not that long. But I'm going to let it get down to about 145 to 150 degrees, and then if I need to hold it longer before everybody's ready to eat, then at that point in time, then I'll put it into a Cambro or a cooler to hold temp. So, and we'll take a look at it here in a little bit. that gelatinous, just good stuff there. Okay. So you can see that the flat here looks good. Separate it up. Here. Okay. And we're going to slice them about a pencil width against the grain. Really letting the knife do the work. Gosh, good. Holy shit. Then here's the fatty end. I really wanted to get as much of that seam, that fat seam that separates the two muscles rendered out, and I feel real happy with that. And so that means I have my temperature right. Just a ton of moisture in this. I don't know if you can see that, but I'm not going to do the squeeze because I hate it when people do that, but you can see clearly that really moist. Probably cut up and do some burnt ends out of this end here, but just really happy with, you know, the way everything, cut that one a little thick, but happy with the way everything came out. Definitely happy with the moisture on it. Good stuff.